It is time. It is time. Do we want to do some holy Bible? All right, one chapter of Bible. One chapter of Bible before we get into it. All right, chapter 22. This chapter is one of the most quoted chapters in the Bible, I think. This is, it's pure cinema. It's incredible. I love this chapter. A lot of people use this to, like, criticize the Bible, but they're retarded because the Bible's awesome. All right, get ready. Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, "Abraham, here I am," he replied. And then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you." Oh boy. Oh boy. Sacrifice your son as a offering. Yikes! Yikes! So anyway, everyone's like, I can't believe that he would sacrifice his own son. It just clearly got... Yeah, but it didn't happen. Spoilers, it doesn't happen. Now, here's the interesting thing. There are many things to be said here. All right? Way too many things to be said here. So notice how he says, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac. Because obviously he's like, take your son. And Abraham's like, well, I have two sons. Your only son, what do you mean? I have two sons. I have one son, Isaac, and one son, Ishmael. Who you love? I love both my sons. Isaac. All right, let's stop playing games. All right, we know who you're talking about. Obviously, the Muslims do not love this verse, for obvious reasons, because they claim that the holy line goes through Ishmael. However, sacrifice him there as a burnt offering as a mountain I will show you. Notice the difference between Abraham and Job. Right? When God tested Job, Job was like not super happy about all the issues that befell him, at some point. Whereas Abraham, he really fully committed to God. Anyway, we could keep going. Well, we could keep going on this one verse, I feel like, for another 20 minutes, but we're not going to do that. Early in the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him his two servants and his son, two of his servants and Isaac. Interesting. So the two servants presumably were Eliezer, the one that we see mentioned all the time, and presumably Ishmael, his other son, who is the daughter of his servant, the son of his servant. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out to the place God had told him about. On the third day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. Right. So I see in like a lot of debates. All right, a lot of debates. People are like, but if God told you to murder your son, would you murder your son? It's like. It's such a crazy line of debate. God is pure and just. God would never make you murder your son, as we're going to see in this chapter. But it's pretty awesome. It's pretty incredible. Obviously, this is the word of God. He showed him. He pointed out the correct place. If I had something whispering in my ear to murder my son or whatever, I would not think it's God. To be clear, Abraham was a prophet. He knew it was God, and he followed God's instructions because God is justice. Even though obviously he didn't murder his son. Spoilers. He said to his servant, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then come back to you." Right. So Abraham seemingly didn't really tell anybody why he is taking Isaac to the top of this mountain. Abraham took the wood from the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and himself carried the fire and the knife. So at this point, obviously, Isaac knew what was going on. He's not I think he's not an idiot. He knew it was happening. A lot of people think of this story where it's like, oh, Isaac was like a little 6-year-old boy. Isaac was 37 in this story, as I'm pretty sure we will see soon. He was 37 years old. All right. And he really takes honoring your father seriously. So I think one of the unsung heroes from this tale is Isaac. He's a 37-year-old guy, and he honored his father, and his father honored God. And this challenge must have been unbelievable for both of them. And they both went ahead and did it because that's the catch-22 test of faith. Yeah, for sure. So Abraham took wood, carried it their knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father Abraham, "Father." "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and the wood are here," Isaac said. "But where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Please, he knew. He knew. Get out of here. He absolutely knew. He's just asking questions because, he wants to hear what his father says, but he knew. Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the land for the burnt offering, my son." Wow. And the two of them went on together. So this is foreshadowing because this is actually prophecy, even though I assume Abraham didn't know that at the time. Abraham really thought he was going to sacrifice his son because that's what God told him to do. However, like the ultimate test of faith. This ended up being a prophecy. When they reached the place God had told them about, Abraham built an altar there, and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. Right? So obviously, they all knew this. Like at this point, everyone is fully aware of what's going on. Again, this Abraham waited 100 years to have this son. 100 years. Abraham is now 137 years old. And here he is. God promises him all this future lineage. He will become a great nation through Isaac. And here he's sacrificing him. Wow. This story is incredible. Well, then he reached out his hand and he took his knife to slay his son. He was fully committed to following the word of God. But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Here I am," he replied. "Do not lay a hand on the boy," he said. "Do not do anything to him. Now that I know you fear God, because you have not withheld from me, your son, your only son." The ultimate test of faith. The ultimate test of faith. Yeah, so a lot of people think that, it's on both sides. It's Abraham and Isaac. Dude, this chapter is incredible. I get, emotional reading this chapter, every single time. Anyway, Abraham looked up, and in a thicket he saw a ram. He caught it by the horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. So that's what happened. Diabolical. So Abraham called the place, "The Lord will provide," and said, "On this day, on the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided." Now, before we continue, important to note, this mountain, Mount Moriah, however you want to pronounce it, this is the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. A lot of people, I feel like, don't know that exactly, but precisely where this burnt offering happened, that is precisely where the altar and the temple is built was built by King Solomon in Jerusalem in this exact spot. So that's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. So anyway, the angel of the Lord called out to Abraham for a second time and said, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you, make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me." Absolute cinema. Absolute cinema. And there we have it. Then Abraham returned to his servants, and they set off together for Beersheba, and Abraham stayed in Beersheba. Incredible. Bro, I love this story so much. It's just ultimately, when you are on the level of Abraham, right, a prophet, and you're speaking to God, you need absolute faith. And obviously God is just, and he'll never make you do something unjust. That's why whenever you hear these gaytheist debaters, screaming and yelling at you and being like, what if God told you to do something bad? It's not bad. Did I miss a line about a ram being provided? Yeah, God found a ram. Anyway, Nahor's sons. This is Abraham's brother. Sometime later, Abraham was told, "Milcah is also a mother. She bore sons to your brother Nahor. Uz, the firstborn, Buz, his brother, Kemuel, the father of Aram, Kesed, Hazo, Fildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. Milcah bore these 8 sons to Abraham's brother Nahor. His concubine, who was then named Reumah, had sons Teba, Gadam, Takash, and Makkah. Now, note, it says here that Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. And Rebekah, spoilers, um, spoilers. Rebekah ends up marrying Isaac. And that is for another day. So, yeah, so that was this chapter. Pretty awesome stuff. Pretty great stuff. Bye. This and the story of Job always stuck out to me. Yeah. See, I think that they're very similar. Whereas Abraham was able to completely succeed in his test, Job kind of failed at some point. I think that the story of this story and the story of Job are direct like comparisons to one another. Yeah, sacrificing your son isn't bad. Did he sacrifice his son? Dude, you're actually retarded. I keep getting hit with the brainlet allegations from random schmobers in my chat. How can you say God is just when he told him to sacrifice his son? Well, he didn't sacrifice his son. Of course God is just. Are you crazy? Obviously. Of course he's just. Duh. Check DMs. All right, what do we got? All right, what do we got? Let's see. Let's go. I was nominated for Best News VTuber on Kick. All right, I don't really care. But thanks, Kick, for the nomination, I guess. Next, you were nominated for the Kick Streamer Awards for Newscaster. Let's go. Let's go. Appreciate it, guys. That's very cool. Tell us where to vote? No, I don't really care. Anyway, moving on. Dude, I don't do news awards. I don't care about awards. All right. Alrighty. Please explain. Not sure what please explain means. You the guy that was crying about how it's unjust to sacrifice your son? He asked him to sacrifice his son. Yeah, and he told him not to. It was a test of his faith. What do you mean? Of course he's just. Please explain. I explained. Yeah. New Testament said Abraham believed God could even raise the dead. That's why. Well, of course God could raise the dead. God could do everything. God could do everything, obviously. But interesting. Just to prove a point to Satan. Well, what if I told you that your entire life, okay? All right, so this will answer the whole why would God test him like this and kind of thing. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's a million answers to this, a myriad of answers to this, but don't you think that every moment of your life also has some sort of test to it? Don't you think that everything is all about the test in some way? If there would be no tests and everything would just be going swimmingly and everything would be easy and you'd win at everything, why would you exist? Like, what's the point of you? God didn't raise a single person in the entire Bible because that would mean death will have no meaning. So that's just wrong. Elisha in the Old Testament brought a boy back to life. Life is the test. Of course, life is the test. Every part of life is the test. All of it. There's no purpose to life if there's no test. What? When? If you want the exact chapter, like I could tell it to you. Mm. 2 Kings chapter 4 verses 18 to 37. Elisha brings a kid back to life. Yeah. So basically, I passed multiple life tests, or you failed and you're going to hell, but hopefully not. The Lord said He'll never give you a challenge you cannot overcome. Straight facts, of course. God gives. It's all about the challenges. It's all about the challenge. It's a brand new test. It's a brand new world, new rivals. All right, we're not going to sing Pokemon songs. Let's